This is Sunil Tulsiani from Private Investment Club. I have one of my best friends, people that I respect. I consider them to be somebody who changed my life completely. We have shared stages together. I have brought him to my Private Investment Club in front of my hundreds of members and all, and people who really love and respect him. And his name is Mr. Brian Tracy. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I'm very happy to be with you, especially at this time of the coronavirus crisis, because all the bets are off. We
Yes.
say everything has changed, and it will never go back to where it was before. And one of the most important things that you do is you recoil and you rebound and you rethink what is going on and you question everything up to now. The biggest enemy of success in life is called the comfort zone, is that people become comfortable doing things in a certain way. And they've gotten good results in the past. And so what happens is they keep going back. They keep falling back into their comfort zone. And even when they know they should be doing something different, the comfort zone is like an elastic band. It just pulls them back into doing the same things. So today, what you have to do is you have to back off and you have to question and realize that things are different. So I've been talking all over the world now, by the way, to
Yes.
thousands of people on crisis management. And I told you about this, and I agreed to come on and share some of the things I've been sharing with others.
Thank you, Brian.
And by the way, when I was first asked to do this formula, I started to train people in leadership seminars on crisis management, and I have all kinds of material. But then I remembered I wrote a book on the subject called Crunch Point. And Crunch Point, my original title was Crunch Time, What to Do When the You-Know-What Hits the Fan. and my publishers in New York said, well, that's a kind of a tough title. Let's call it Crunch Point and 21 Secrets to Succeeding When It Matters Most.
Yes.
And I have course studying crisis management, and I pulled out 21 great ideas. And one of them here, for example, which we will talk about a little bit, is generate cash flow. If there is a crisis, and I was just watching this on television a couple of minutes ago, and they're saying adamantly is generate cash. Don't spend it. Hold on to the money in this time until you see what's going to happen. So anyway, this book has 21 ideas, and I'll share 3 of them with you. And this book sort of makes me an authority, or maybe even an expert in the world, because I don't know anybody else who has written a book that is as good as this on crisis management. So what you're getting is really good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. And Brian, before you start, I just want to set it up for everybody else. So this is for crisis management for COVID-19, obviously what's going on right now. And
Yeah.
a lot of my members and friends have been talking about how do we build cash flow? What do we do in these times? So I've asked a favor to my good friend, Brian, of course, who is going to do this for us. And I'm going to put him on the screen, and I'm going to get myself off the camera because Brian's got some amazing stuff that he's going to talk about, including how to generate cash flow. Brian, take it away, please. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the questions that I start my seminars with, and I've given more than 5,000 seminars in 84 countries. My last country was Dagestan on the Caspian Sea in southern Russia. So it's 84 countries. And the question I open a seminar with is I say, what is the highest paid work that you do? What is the most valuable, most important, highest paid work that you do? And I let people think about that for a while, and they mutter and they're not sure. And I say, well, the answer is thinking. Thinking is the most important and most valuable work that you do. And let me tell you why. Is the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your decisions. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your actions, and the quality of your actions determines the quality of your results. Right. Now, the most important word to think about in business and in life is the word consequences. Is Milton Friedman and other of the great thinkers in economics and philosophy have pointed out that your ability to accurately depict the consequences of your thinking and action is the mark of the superior thinker. So what you do is you say, if I do this, what is likely to happen? If I don't do this, what is likely to happen? And Milton Friedman said, the core thinking, your job is to think. And what we learned is that the more information you have, the more ideas, the more skilled you are, the better that you think. And so one of your jobs is to continue to gather information.
Right.
Many years ago, a very smart friend of mine said, what is the purpose of communication? And we were all a bunch of smart guys, 20 people, sort of played around with this. And he said, well, the answer is, I'm sorry, what is the purpose of importance of words in human interaction? And we sort of thought about that for a while. And we said, well, communication, the purpose of words is
Right.
communication. He said, yes, that's usually the answer that people give. However, it's more than that. He said, each word is a condensed thought. And as a condensed thought, it means that the more words you know, the more thoughts you have. And when you combine together different words, you come up with richer and more important thoughts.
Right.
And I thought about that, and I've taught it for years. It means that the more information you have, the more things that you learn, the more you research and discover, the greater is the range of your thinking, and the more thinking fast and slow. And what he talked about was that thinking is the most important thing, as we talked about. So fast thinking is what you do normally throughout your daily life. I say it's like driving through traffic. You change lanes quickly, you go faster, you go slower, and so on. And or it's like going to a smorgasbord, and you go down the smorgasbord and you load your plate with a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And the great majority of people practice fast thinking all the time. However, there's also slow thinking. And slow thinking is when you pull back, slow down, and take some time to think. Well, just like your mother told you, take time to think, slow down, don't rush into it, count to 10, things like this. Well, what he found was that the more time that you take to think, the more likely it is you're going to make better decisions. Many years ago, I had a great opportunity, wonderful story. I should write a book about it. But I was hired by what I call the big boss. And the big boss owned a company, about $800 million, more than 200 companies inside the company, with banks and trust companies and apartments and restaurants and petrochemical plants. And brilliant man. Started with nothing and was worked his way up. And he had a steel trap memory. I could say something to him and he could quote it back to me. I could show him a contract on something that he had assigned to me. And 6 months later, we would be discussing this business and he would refer me to a particular clause on a particular page in that contract. He remembered everything. However, whenever we discussed a business decision, he would always say, let me think about it. I still remember. I would say, we should do this and we should do that. And then we should take this action and so on. And this was almost all in real estate, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And he said, well, let me think about it for a while. So I would meet with him to catch up on a Friday afternoon or evening. And I say, I need your authority to do this or do that. He said, let me think about it. And I could not get him to budge, even though this guy was brilliant. And he would take 2 or 3 days and come back. And he said, I've been thinking about our discussion and I think this is what we should do. And I always remember that his decisions were brilliant. They're so insightful. They're so much smart. I was working on these projects full time, and yet he would come up with insights that generated millions of dollars in profits from real estate development, real estate zoning, real estate building, office building, just brilliant. So what that taught me was that the smartest people in the world are people who take time to think. They think slowly. And what Kahneman, the person who wrote Thinking Fast and Slow, said was that the great problem is that people use fast thinking when they should be using slow thinking. So that's the first thing, is think slowly. And he said the most important thing of all is the consequences of your thinking. And if the consequences are substantial, then what you have to do is slow down. Just like we were talking about, most important word is thinking and so on. And your job, therefore, even though your natural tendency, impetuous, worried, scared, frightened, nervous, unsure, natural tendency is to move quickly. What you have to do is say, hold on, slow down, think slowly. The bigger the consequences, the more important it is that you think slowly. And one of the great ways of thinking is to think on paper. Write things down. Write things down. I have written 86 books that have been published in 46 languages all over the world. And people say, how can you write so many books? I say, well, I do a lot of research. I read 3 hours a day and have for many years, but I take notes all the time. I write them down and then I review my notes. So my mind is stocked up. Like you see behind me, you see all the books behind me. This is like my mind. My mind is my mental storehouse. My mind is full of the best thinking of hundreds and thousands of books that I've accumulated over the years. But then when I start to write a book, I write it down. Always write things down. Always take notes. You're listening to a seminar, take notes. I'm astonished. Sometimes I do seminars for hundreds of really excellent business people. And I'll say, now be sure to write this down. And people will be looking at each other and, look, can I borrow your pen? Do you have an extra pen? They come to a full day business seminar with a person like me who really knows their subject, and they don't even bring a pen. They don't write anything down. And you know what research shows is that if you don't take notes, you will forget 80% of what you learned in the seminar by the end of the day. And you'll forget 90% by the next morning. And that's if you're lucky. But if you take notes, and they have found in teaching university students, if you take notes, not typing, but writing them down, you can retain 80 or 90%. You can have that money put in, or those ideas put into your mental storehouse. So here's the first thing in times of crisis, when things are going wrong, is think slowly. Slow down. Take time out. Okay. Now the second way of thinking that I like is a fast think. What did I write down here? Here we go. Is short thinking versus long-term thinking. And long-term thinking requires goals. And you'll find that the most successful people are people who think long-term. Is they write down goals and they make plans and they review their goals and plans every day. Only 3%, if they're in their minds, they're all mixed up like salad in a salad bowl. And you can't figure out which is which. But smart people write it down and rewrite it. I teach an exercise. Oh, by the way, I'm the best-selling author in the world on time management, because I learned many years ago that the quality of your time management determines the quality of your life. Is it time management is everything. Is you can't do anything unless you can manage yourself.
Which book is that, Brian? Which book is that?
The book that I wrote is called Eat That Frog.
Yes, I love it. I love that book.
Yes, but I've also wrote another book called Time Power, which is primarily a business book, much thicker. But Eat That Frog is 21 great ways to stop procrastinating and get more things done faster. And that book has sold 10 million copies all over the world. It is so popular. It just sells 1 million copies a year. And people tell me, including the heads of large companies, that these very simple techniques that help them to think about how they use their time have made them rich and made their companies rich. I remember a good friend of mine who was a senior executive at a major company in Europe. He got a copy of the book when he was visiting the US, and he read it, and he found, when he got back to Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, he found that they translated into Czech. So he bought 1,000 copies for everybody in his company. And just then we had this recession in the 80s, and the market collapsed in his industry, and yet his sales went up 32%.
Wow.
Because everybody in the company was taught time management. So they were able to think better, think slower, make better decisions, set goals. I'm also the best-selling author in the world on goal setting. And the book that I wrote is called Goals, exclamation point. And many people will tell me that that book makes them rich. It'll make you rich. I can promise you one thing, it's not going to hurt you. And it can help you. It's my years and even decades, hundreds, thousands of hours of research, all condensed into a simple structure that you can use to be vastly more effective. And in time management, we learn time management and goal setting. We learn that you can earn 10 times as much as the average person. Do you know that there's the 80-20 rule in your field? The top 20% earn 80% of the money in any field, and the bottom 80% have to share the 20% that's left over. 80-20. This law has been around since 1895. And so many people have calculated what is the difference between the two. Well, here's a shocker, and you can work this out with your calculator. People in the top 20% earn on average 16 times the average of people in the bottom 80%. 16 times. Now, sometimes I ask my audiences, I said, what difference would it make in your life if you doubled your income? How many people here would like to double their income? And so everybody raises their hand. I say, okay, today I'm going to give you 7 different ways to double your income. And by the way, I ended up developing a half-day seminar called Double Your Productivity, Double Your Income. And I teach in the course of another seminar, maybe a business seminar, a sales seminar, an entrepreneurial seminar, and I just throw out, here's a way to double your income. Here's another way. And every one of them works. Well, you look at the people in the top 20%, every one of them started in the bottom 20%. Everyone started in the bottom 20%, and then they made a decision that I'm going to get into the top 20%. So here's the question I would ask. What difference would it make you in your life if you were earning twice as much within a month, 30 days, twice as much as you're earning today? How would that change your life? Well, you think, whoa, geez, I mean, that'd really make a difference. And you think about your lifestyle and where you would go to restaurants and the car you drive and so on. How about if you tripled your income? What about if you increased your income 5 times or 10 times or 16 times?
Wow.
Well, you can't not even imagine that. When I first started learning these things, my annual income, which is the amount that you write on your tax forms, by the way, nobody brags or exaggerates on your taxes.
Yes.
I earned $14,400 that year, way back in the 70s. 10 years later, I earned exactly 100 times.
Wow.
$1,440,000 that I had been earning 10 years before. And it was all because of practicing the principles we're talking about. So the first principle in Get Smart is slow thinking versus fast thinking. The second is long-term versus short-term. And that means if you want to be a millionaire, take a piece of paper and write down, I am a millionaire by this time, this date. And be realistic. Don't think you're going to be rich tomorrow or the next week, but write it down so that you have a target to aim at. It sounds very small or very unimportant, but it's everything. Write it down, write it down, write it down. Now, what most people do is that they think short term. They seek immediate gratification. They look for immediate pleasure. And unfortunately, no successful people do this. Successful people think long term. Now, the third way of thinking is informed thinking versus uninformed thinking. And again, any one of these will make you rich or will make you poor. But informed thinking means that you do your homework. You get a lot of information. I remember the big boss used to give me real estate projects to take charge of. And I would spend hours, I would travel, I would spend hours into the night. I never worked less than 13 or 14 hours for something like 2 years. But every assignment he gave me, I would spend hour after hour after hour studying and talking with people, with architects and engineers and city council people, and work and work and work until finally I had enough information to make recommendations. And I built out myself more than $300 million worth of real estate. I developed it from literally raw land to finished office buildings,
Wow.
apartments, hotels, everything. And it was quite amazing. Last year, I finished a real estate project in Fort Lauderdale, and we sold the project, and we had it approved, unconditionally approved by the City Council of Fort Lauderdale for a $360 million real estate development. And it had hotels, apartments, condominiums, office buildings, parking garages, and it was an assembly of 5 pieces of land. And it was on the main street across from the city hall and on the main track, which went straight down to the center of Miami, which is, the capital or the biggest city in Florida. And my partners and I worked with them. I provided them with money and advice. They took the money, ignored the advice, and generated this fantastic project. Imagine in less than 3 years, we went from one piece of property on which we had an option to assembling 5 pieces of property all together in a land assembly, getting it all approved. And this is largely because of people that I knew and doors that I was able to open, and got approval on a $360 million real estate project. And then what you do, if you're smart, what you do is you then find somebody who's much bigger than you, and you pass the approved project onto them. And then they then take it from that stage and take it to the next stage. And that's how you develop large pieces of real estate.
Well, Brian, a lot of people may not know this, but you're a real estate investor as well. And I mean, we got to know each other. I mean, just the fact that you just talked about this project, a lot of people don't know that, it's not just you trade. You're also a real estate investor, which is great to know.
Yes. Well, and it's very important. And the thing that I learned is that everything is learnable. All skills are learnable. If you want to earn a lot of money, somebody pointed this out to me many, many years ago, is that money making is a skill like riding a bicycle,
yes,
like operating a computer. It's just a skill. It's a learnable skill. Is that everybody who is good at making money today at one time was not good at making money, and then they learned how. And one of the primary ways they learned how is they went to people who are successful and they asked them, how do you do it? How do you go from zero to making money in real estate? And there's all kinds of techniques. We won't talk about it here. We will talk about crisis management.
Yes.
Crisis management means that you stop the clock, you slow down, you think through every detail of what you're doing. You write things down and you go slowly. Don't get further behind like other people are today. Just go slow. You've been resolving for years to read some stuff, to do some things and so on. Well, now's the time that you do it. If you're required, like here in California, all 40 million of us adults were required to go home and stay there. And if you don't, I live on the beach, or I live on a beach city, and a couple decided to go down and take a walk on the beach and just take a look at the ocean. There's no traffic, there's nobody out there. And they received a ticket and got a fine for $1,000.
Wow.
For being outside of their home and being close together, husband and wife, and they were fined $1,000. Now you think about that, you think that's ridiculous. It'll probably be thrown out of court, but that's the kind of times that we're in today. So when you start to think about this crisis, the critical thing that you do is that you slow down and you use this to think, because this crisis will pass. And Sunil and I have gotten together and talked a lot about making more money. And sometimes I will say to my audiences when I start off, I say, why do you get up in the morning and go to work? Why do you do that? Why don't you just stay in bed? And asking good questions really provokes a lot of thought. And they'll say, well, they'll think about it. I say, well, the answer is you go to work so that you can make more money.
Exactly.
I call this MMM. You get up, you go to work so that you can MMM. Now, if you
make more money.
are now at work how do you make more money at work? And I call it SMS, which is sell more stuff. So you MMM by SMSing. And you're only at work, you're only working when you're SMSing, when you're selling more stuff. Our entire system is set up based on you or other people finding people who want and need things to improve the quality of their lives and their work. And your job is to find things that people want and need and provide the 1,000 large companies and more than 10,000 small and medium-sized companies. I've developed complete programs to help people to start and build highly profitable businesses. And I want to share with you in the time that we have just a couple of ideas
Yes.
that are sort of like back to basics for business success. And I pulled together some notes here, and I call these 7 basics for business success. And there's 7 requirements that never change, no matter what is happening, no matter whether or not we have a pandemic, is the basics never change. And anybody who tries to operate not paying attention to the basics is doomed to fail. So the number 1 basic is you need an excellent product or service.
Yes.
If you take the 80-20 rule, is that 20% of the things that you do are to guarantee an excellent product, because the excellent product determines 80% of business success or failure. We say that the quality of your product is the most important single factor, because human beings will always buy what they consider to be the highest quality product, all things considered, at that moment. So therefore, never take your eye off this ball. There's always be thinking about quality, quality, quality. Now, the next question you ask is, what is the product that you sell? And what we know is that customers do not buy products or services. They buy what those products or services do to change and improve their lives. So your job is to think not what is the product, but what does it do? How does it change the life? And who is my competition? Who are the people who are trying to get the same customers and the same customer money? And the way they're going to do it is they're going to buy from the person or company that they feel offers the very best quality, all things considered. One of the best techniques you can use is what I call the Einstein principle. And Einstein said that if you cannot explain your product or service to a 6-year-old child, it means you probably don't understand it yourself. So the question that we ask is, what is your product or service? Imagine a 6-year-old were to ask you, what do you do? What do you do? And you have to tell the 6-year-old child, so the 6-year-old child understands it clearly and can then turn and tell another 6-year-old child. And always you tell the child in terms of what it does. I help people to achieve this particular goal. That's what you do. So simply that the child can understand it. Now, who's the richest man in the world today? Answer, almost everybody knows, is Jeff Bezos, who founded Amazon about 12 years ago. Jeff Bezos was a salesman. He sold stocks and bonds on the phone in New York, working out of an office. And he decided to move out to the West Coast. And he and his wife drove from New York to Seattle. And while he drove, he was working away on his iPad, his computer, looking for or thinking about something that people wanted and needed and were willing to pay for and wasn't being offered. And what he concluded was that people like to read books, but people are so busy today, they don't have time to go to the bookstores and wander through the aisles and find the book and take it, or not find the book and find they have to go back in a week or 2 weeks and the bookstore will order it and they would have to leave a deposit and so on. And so what he did, he said, what if we could deliver books to people's homes? So they could order the book online and we could deliver it to their homes. And since the book publishers will give a discount to booksellers, bookstores, if they gave the bookstore discount to me, then I could pass along half that discount to my customers because I don't have any operating costs. I don't have any store. So what he did was said, buy from me, we'll deliver it in 7 days and give you a 30% discount. and you're not going to read the book when you take it home anyway. So buy it from me. And it started to work. And originally he would take the order, advertise and take the order, and then he would contact the publisher, and the publisher would mail the book. He got so busy that he eventually had carried the books himself and began delivering the books and so on. Today it's a legend. But then a couple of years happened, and people said, can I sell my stuff on your website? And originally he said, no, we're just in books. And then he said, well, wait a minute, why not? And so he allowed other people to have stores on Amazon. Not only that, he set up a system of sales, cloud system, that other people could use to operate their businesses completely different from his, but he had all the technology. So today what happened is we sold more and more books and more products. Today he sells as many as 100 million different products on Amazon. And people buy the products and they're discounted and they're unconditionally guaranteed. And you can go on to Amazon. And his goal, his idea was this, is let's make it so that you could get on and off in 30 seconds.
Wow.
So if you go to Amazon, here's the critical thing. You go to Amazon because you pretty much know what you want. So you go to Amazon, put it in, go straight to the website, pick the one you want, push the button. You have your credit card already in there, and the product comes to your house in 5 to 7 days. But then other people started to compete. So he made it 4 or 5 days, 3 or 4 days, 2 or 3 days. Today, most Amazon products can be delivered within 24 hours. Can you imagine that? 100 million products from all over the world that can be delivered in a day or two.
Wow.
I mean, it's when I was traveling, somebody would say, well, this is a really good book. I'd order the book and it would be waiting for me by the time I got home. And that's what people merge and so on. But if you were asked to ask someone, what is the highest quality company in buying products and services online, you would say instantly, Amazon. They wouldn't even think about what's the highest quality iPhone, Apple. What's the highest quality computer software company, Microsoft. What's the very highest quality information company, Google. In other words, these companies are known from the very beginning for the quality of what they do. So quality is important because quality gives people assurance and comfort that they will get the right product and they'll pay the right price and that they will get the right quality. So that's the first thing, is an excellent product is 90% of business success. And the product has to be something that people want and need and are willing to pay for now. Now, if you're a good salesperson and you're offering a good product, and I teach sales in another place, I'm also the best-selling author in the world on sales, audio programs, video programs, books, courses, and so on, is the biggest problem that people say, well, it's price. People are concerned about prices. They say it costs too much, I can't afford it. Well, if you have the right product of the right level of quality, at the end of your sales presentation, your customer will only ask you one question. They won't ask how much does it cost. They'll only ask, how soon can I get it? How soon can I get it? How fast can I get your product or service? And it's the same as you can imagine going to a high quality restaurant. Is the only question is, can I get in? Can I get a table? Can I come there? Because it's so popular. And your job is to have a product or service that all people think about is how fast can I get it? And people don't think about the price. When was the last time you bought a book and you made your decision based on how much the book cost?
Yeah, exactly.
You never even think about it. The only question is, how soon can you get it? And this is because of your quality. Now remember this, we talk about pronouns. The first pronoun is always, what is my product? What is it in terms of the transformation or change that it brings about in the life and work of your consumer? And you have to be able to explain it to a 6-year-old. The second question is, who is my customer? And you have to know the name and the age and the background and so on. And there's several different elements of analyzing your customers. The first are called the demographics, the age, education, income, family formation, and so on. But there's a second, it's called the psychographics. And that is how people think and feel, is what are their goals? What are their hopes? What are their dreams? What are their fears? You see, the way that you sell something is you connect with something that people really want. It's something that people will change their lives. And then there is a new part of marketing, which is so important. Nobody knows about it. It's called the ethnographics. And a company in Sweden, in Stockholm, came up with this idea of asking, what role does my product play in the life of my customer? In other words, what difference does it make? And if it's a big difference, then they're willing to pay a lot for that. If it's a small difference, they're willing to pay a little. And so they did a very simple experiment with Samsung televisions in Europe. And in Europe, the television set is considered a piece of furniture. It's on the side. People don't sit and watch television all the time as they do in North America. What they do is they like the television, so it can, in a way, be rolled away. So they've been trying to sell Samsung televisions the way that they sell them in North America, and they were struggling and struggling. And finally, they came up with this idea of putting the television in a cabinet on wheels so that it rolled away and rolled back out. They sold $1 billion worth of televisions the following year and became the world leader.
Wow.
And wow. And so a question I ask, I'll say, how many people here have an iPhone? I've got 1,000 people in the room. Everybody has an iPhone or something very close to it.
Yeah.
I'll say, now, if I can demonstrate what role this iPhone has in your life, here's a question. Have you ever had an experience where you get in your car and you set off for work and you've driven a few miles and then you realize, OMG, I forgot my phone. What do?
You go back.
And you go back. And you know something? 1,000 people will say you turn around and go back, or you phone somebody to deliver the phone. In other words, this phone is central to your life. So if you can show your customers that this can have a central role in your life, with Apple, there's a basic rule is that the success in your business is largely determined by customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction is measured by how happy your customers are and how likely they are to buy from you again. So as Peter Drucker said in marketing, the rule is sell the first time, get them to buy from you the first time. Second of all, have them buy from you again because they're so happy with the first purchase. And third of all, have them bring their friends and recommend your product or service to your friends. So it's buy again, bring your friends. Buy again, bring your friends. There's some fabulous research on this that shows that your level of referrals, how happy your customer is with their current purchase and how many referrals they give you is the critical determinant in the future of your business. So the very best companies now are thinking, how can we get the second sale? So it's not the first sale that's important, it's always the second sale. You can get the first sale by a whole bunch of things. You can give discounts and all kinds of lies and things like that. But the second sale is the critical factor. And the most important of all is the referrals. One of the things that we teach is what is called the economic denominator, is that in every business, there is one number that is more important in predicting your future success than any other single number. And so the question is, what is that one number? What is the one number for you? And almost everybody makes the mistake of saying it's sales. It's just sales. That's what we need to do. We need to get more sales. Well, there are 35 numbers that determine your success or failure in the future, and sales is only one of them. People say, no, it's sales. It's all we need is sales. And it is true. Business success comes from high sales. Business failure comes from low sales and everything. So I say, what if you advertise and promote and package and deliver and you ship out the product and some come back because of customer dissatisfaction and you lose money on every sale? Then what would happen if you made a lot of sales? And the answer is you'd go bankrupt. And the more sales you made, the faster you go bankrupt. So it's not something as simple as just sales. Here's what kills companies. They think, oh, it's just sales. As the main thing is you've got to get the sale. Got to get the sale. No, There are many other factors. I was working with a company and they took this to heart. And what they said is the most important number in our business is number of referrals. And everybody in the company meets every week to talk about the number of referrals that they're getting and how we can get more referrals and what customers need to be satisfied with to give you a referral. And everything is referrals. And the more they focus on referrals, this is a psychological principle, the more you focus on a number, the faster that number improves. So the more they focus on that number, the more referrals they get. It forces them all the way down line to take good care of customers, deliver, give customer service, make customers happy, to respond to their complaints and so on, because that's how you get referrals. So if you could just say, if for every sale I make, I get one referral, what does that mean? What would that mean? It means for every sale, you would get 2 sales. And people say, geez, what is the fastest way to increase this growth of your business is to have your happy customers bring you more happy customers. Now, let's look at the most profitable company in the world, Apple. Apple is the first company last year to have $1 trillion in the bank from profits, $1 trillion. That is more money than some countries make. And we can look at all the things that happen, but and you think about $1 trillion, $1 trillion, $1 trillion is, how do they get $1 trillion? Well, Apple did a study last year and they asked, they have now about 990 million owners, almost 1 billion, probably it's over 1 billion now. Ask them, how many of you iPhone owners intend to buy another iPhone in the future? And you know what the number was? 90%. Wow. 90% of their customers are so happy with their current iPhone, they're going to buy another one. Do you know what that means? It means that Amazon is going to continue to be the most profitable company in the history of the world because the cost of the resale from a referral is nothing. Happy customers, and what they're finding now is that instead of spending all of your time and money getting new customers, you spend all of your time, especially today in the day of the virus, you spend all of your time making your customers so happy that they automatically and spontaneously want to buy from you again. Now, here's a very simple example. Have you ever been to a restaurant, really good restaurant? Somebody said, you should go to this restaurant. You've never heard of it before. So you go to this restaurant. And it really is excellent. The service is excellent. The food is excellent. The people are excellent. The decor is excellent. And you really have an enjoyable dinner with yourself, your family, and so on. Now, what do you automatically do? Well, the first thing you do is as you leave, you're thinking about coming back. You're already thinking about coming back. Very often you will book, especially if it's a popular restaurant, you'll put in a booking before you leave. So you'll come back. The second is you tell your friends. If you have a good experience, you want your good friends to have a good experience as well. So we call this, my friend Ken Blanchard calls it raving fans. Yes. And what he says is that your very best sales force are your happy customers, because you make them so happy, they want their friends to enjoy the same experience. In movies, by the way, they can't afford to advertise for more than 1 week or 1 weekend. So the movie comes out and they have big ads, full page, television, newspaper, and so on, but they cannot afford more than that, because how much do they make when one person attends a movie? So they can attend, they can advertise and get people into the theater for the first weekend. After that, the movie can only succeed by word of mouth. Is people have to go to the movie and be so happy that they tell other people to go. Wow. Because they cannot afford to do anything more. So the first weekend, and that's why you criticized it. They said, well, it's not like the book. And these are all New York City reviewers. And they all said the same thing. Oh, it's not as good, and it doesn't follow the book exactly, and it ignores this character and spends too much time. They just kind of picky criticized this book. And I saw the reviews. I read all the reviews for books and movies. And my daughter had a horse, and she wanted to go and see it. And I said, no, I read the reviews. It's not that good. I mean, she said, oh, Dad, It's a really good movie. All the people in the horse industry think it's a really good movie. Uh, it was called something. Anyway, and so we said, okay, and there's a theater not far from where we live. So my wife and my daughter and I went to the theater, and this movie had been out 3 weeks now, 3 or 4 weeks. And by that time, the movie's either made it or not, but it had only been criticized in the press. So we went there in about the third or the fourth week, and we went in the afternoon, and the theater was jammed. And when we got there, 5 or 10 minutes before the movie started, and we had to take a seat on the back next to the wall. Thank you. Excuse me. From a very successful businessman. He started off his business, and it was in financial services, and he didn't have any clients. And he got introduced to a woman, a wealthy, older woman, widow. She had a lot of money, and he knew her through his family, and so she invested with him. And he didn't have anybody else to sell to, so he did a complete report to her every week. He called her up and filled her in what had happened with her investments during the week, what had gone up, what had gone down, what it was looking like for the future, and so on. And she really enjoyed talking to him. And after about a month or so of this, she said, I've never had this kind of service before, where my financial advisor actually keeps coming back and telling me what's going on. I hear from them once a month or twice a year. And I was wondering, would you be willing to take money from a couple of my friends, also older, also with a lot of money, and manage their money as well? And what do you think he said? He said, sure. He said, so he opened accounts, and then he gave them the same service, and they recommended him to others. Soon he had a huge stable, if you like, of wealthy clients who were bringing him clients from everywhere. And what he did is he realized, geez, if I structure my business so that I give feedback to my clients every week, they'll give me more clients. And he did. And when he brought me in to speak at my rates, he brought me in to speak, and this was in Toronto, by the way. And he had a beautiful home. He had a beautiful estate. He had horses. He had a special guest house and everything else. And he was putting on a special deal with me as the speaker, and bringing in all of his clients and prospective clients for this really great, upbeat, motivational seminar. And people loved it. And as a result, they invested more, or they invested for the first time, or they came back. It was the most amazing thing. Then he hired new people, and he trained them in this system. Is what we do is we give a complete report every week to each of our clients so that they're happy. Give them their personal phone number. I was just talking to another financial advisor last week, one of my clients, and what he started doing when he started in his business, he would have a business card, and on the back he would write his personal phone number. He said, this is my personal phone number. You can call me anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'm at your service. He said, these people have been investing for years, and they had never been given the private phone number of their investment consultant. Wow. So he gave it to them. He said, they very seldom ever called, but when they called, thank heavens, he was available, because he could then take care of them and deal with their problems, service them well, and get more business from them, and so on. So in this time, and I'm just thinking about this, Sunil and I are just thinking about this, the most important thing that you could do right now is to give your clients really great service, because that's all you can do. You're making a virtue out of necessity. So get in touch with your clients, and don't get in touch with your clients to ask for business. Everybody thinks, well, I'll call them up and ask for money. Give me your money. No, is what you say is, I'm not calling you to sell you anything. What I would like to do is tell you what's happening, where things are going, where the experts are predicting the future, and so on. Just become a source of information to your clients. And the most amazing thing will happen is they'll come back to you over and over. They'll tell their friends. They'll buy from you and buy again. And when this pandemic is over, they will remember you. They will remember that when everything was going to hell in a handbasket, is you were there to take care of them, take them through it, and make no attempt to sell. This is a strategy that I've used throughout my career, is try to help, but make no attempt to sell. And it will bounce back. It'll come to you. It's sort of like the boomerang effect, is you throw the boomerang to give them great service, and it will come back in form of goodwill and business that will take really good care of you. So actually, we're running out of time now. Wow. So let me just wrap up by
Yes.
saying that this is a challenging time to be alive, but in every challenge, there are opportunities. And there are opportunities for you during this crisis to learn subjects you've been wanting to learn and to take care of your customers at a higher level than you have ever done it, so that when the crisis is over, you will have developed yourself to a higher level, which you will have for the rest of your career. So thank you. Thank you, Sunil, for your time.
Thank you, Brian, for this wonderful training sessions. We really, really, really appreciate you, and have a wonderful time, and take care of yourself and your health as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Talk to you
Take,
again soon.
take good care.